The stars shimmered cold and distant through the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, their light a dim counterpoint to the metallic gleam of 10,000 warships arranged in sacred geometry. Each vessel of the Confederation fleet moved with precision, silver spires and blue-lit hulls woven into formations so perfect, they might have been orchestrated by celestial minds. At the center of it all stood War Marshal Vexithara, her obsidian gaze reflecting the quiet hum of conquest. For 3,000 years, these fleets had moved like instruments of divine law. 212 species had bowed, broken, or vanished in the face of this exacting doctrine. None had resisted. None had survived. Her forearms moved with the elegance of ritual as she scanned the reports. Efficient. Unfeeling. Absolute. Until now. War Marshal, her aide clicked in their native tongue, voice crisp with duty. Our scouts have returned. From the outer rim. Vexithara turned slowly, her armored joints whispering with restraint. Report. The aide hesitated, a tremor almost imperceptible. A new species. They call themselves, humans. Their world is a blue orb they name Earth. Primitive. Barely capable of interstellar travel. Crude projectile weapons. Disorganized military structure. No unified doctrine. That last part drew a rasp from Vexithara. In a human throat, it might have been laughter. How many warships, she asked. Fewer than 50, War Marshal. Perhaps 800 vessels total. Most are unarmed, built for trade or science. Irrelevant numbers. War was not won with numbers. War was won with structure. With discipline. With perfect repetition. And their tactics, she asked. They have none. Or rather, too many. Each tribe, what they call nations, fights differently. Some favor massed formations. Others strike and vanish. Some fight from distance, others engage, physically. Vexithara's voice cooled. Chaos. Yes, War Marshal. They have learned nothing, she said. They fight like creatures without culture. Without symmetry. They will fall. Meanwhile, orbiting a minor colony on the outer rim, a very different kind of command center pulsed with life. The USS Defiance, a human battlecruiser, wasn't the biggest in Earth's fragile fleet. But to its captain, Jake Morrison, it carried the weight of all humanity. Captain, came the call from LT. Amy Rodriguez at the comms, another distress signal. Outer colonies. Same pattern. Morrison, all worn eyes and gray-streaked silence, gave a nod. Put it through. The voice that followed was barely more than static, but fear pierced the distortion. Unknown vessels, moving in perfect formation. Massive. Organized. They're broadcasting, but we can't decipher it. It's like, watching a parade of death. If they open fire, the signal cut. Silence. Just the low thrum of Defiance's drive core. How long to New Austin? Morrison asked. 18 hours. At maximum burn. Then burn everything. Morrison had seen 1,000 things in his years, from corporate warlords choking Mars to pirates who carved asteroids into kingdoms. But this? Perfect formation. A style so alien, it smelled of religion. It wasn't just military. It was art. He turned to his crew, Chief Engineer Sullivan, cool under pressure. Communications Officer Park, still trying to reacquire the colony's beacon. They were Earth's best. But would that be enough? He'd learned something in the mud of Earth's wars, something he carried like a scar. Perfection breaks. It's beautiful. Elegant. But fragile. Predictable. Humans. They didn't need to be perfect. Just clever enough to find the crack. Far away, Vexithara prepared for the standard process of dominion. Battle Commander Kaltek, one of her more ambitious subordinates, would lead the first wave. 50 ships. Enough to flatten a colony within minutes. She turned as her advisor Mork approached, strange worry in his voice. We intercepted a human transmission. It's not a plea. It's a message to us. Vexathara tilted her head. Translation. 4 words, come and take it. For the first time in 3,000 years, the war marshal felt something she didn't recognize. A flicker of interest. The assault began with ritual elegance. Cult-Hex ships approached New Austin in a precise dance. Their positions exact. Their movement flawless. It was a doctrine passed through generations, meant to break the will of a species before the first shot was fired. From the defense platform above the colony, Coordinator Ryan Clark watched the shimmering approach in disbelief. They're performing, he muttered. Beside him, Commander Helen Wright, grizzled from Earth's last war, growled. Looks like they want to impress us before they kill us. They expect us to gather. To defend with structure, Clark said. We won't. All units, Clark ordered, execute Scatter Protocol 7. Across the system, Earth's ships scattered. Defense platforms shifted course. The sky above New Austin became chaos. And in that chaos, something ancient stirred. On board Cult-Hex Bridge, a ripple of confusion broke the usual order. Battle Commander, his tactician said, the humans are abandoning their defenses. Their ships have no formation. No coordination. None. Random. Then they panic. Advance. But the humans were not panicking. Fighter squadrons slashed through Confederation formations like guerrilla ghosts. Lieutenant Tony Martinez led a pack of Earth's finest into the heart of the enemy's war grid. Alien sensors failed to predict their movements. Because there was nothing to predict. Chaos, true chaos, is the one variable no machine can model. Martinez's ship took a hit. No primary weapons. No escape route. I've got one last move, he said on the open channel. And he rammed his craft into the bridge of a Confederation cruiser. Direct. Final. Brutal. The explosion was poetry. Human poetry, messy, raw, and devastating. Cult-Hex watched, aghast. Why would he do that? No doctrine calls for suicide runs. No species would, but he was wrong. One species would. Clark, coordinating the now wildly positioned Earth forces, smiled grimly. Helen, hit their supply line. From underneath. They're protecting it like we'll attack from the sides. Human ships surged, not in waves, but in slashes. Unpredictable, beautiful slashes of desperate genius. And Cult-Hex saw it, too late. His doctrine wasn't built for this. His tactics had no defense against irrational courage. Reform the lines, he barked. Execute Pattern 7 Alpha. But every time the Confederation reassembled, the humans scattered again. They did not stand and fight. They danced through the gaps. They sacrificed to break command. They evolved with each moment. And finally, something unthinkable happened. Retreat, Cult-Hex ordered. All ships, fall back. We must analyze this madness. For the first time in 3 millennia, a Zephyrian fleet disengaged. Not because it was ordered. Not because it was logical. But because chaos had won. The stars had barely dimmed from Cult-Hex retreat when the war drums of the galaxy began to beat louder. The Confederation, once thought immovable, had flinched. And in its shadow, humanity stirred, not with arrogance, but with a quiet, determined curiosity. What happens when the unyielding meets the unknowable? Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance as it slipped from faster-than-light transit. The starlight of New Austin's system stretched around them, streaking like ghost trails. And then, stillness. He saw them, dozens of alien ships, glinting like obsidian teeth in the sky. The human defense platform still stood, defiant, bruised, alive. But just barely. "Give me a tactical reading," he said, already knowing what he'd see. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez scanned the display, her fingers trembling. 73 alien ships, Captain. Still holding tight formations. "They haven't overwhelmed us because, we've been putting up one hell of a fight." A quiet chuckle from Chief Engineer Sullivan. "Looks like Ryan Clark still has some tricks." Morrison smiled. Earth had many things. Perfection wasn't one of them. But it had grit. It had rage. And it had memory. "Open a channel to New Austin." A moment later, Ryan Clark's voice crackled through the bridge, worn, hoarse, but alive. "Jake, you're a sight for sore eyes. These bastards fight like a textbook. We've been dancing around them, but it's a close one." "Help's arrived," Morrison said. "Just tell me where to punch." Clark didn't hesitate. "Find the command ship. Their formations pivot around it." Rodriguez was already scanning. "There, center of the array. That cruiser's emitting tactical orders to all other vessels." A beat passed. Then Morrison spoke the kind of words that would never appear in any military manual: "Forget the fleet. We take that ship." There was silence. Then Sullivan whistled low. "Captain, if we hit that thing, every alien gun is going to light us up. I'm not planning on making it easy for them." He turned to his crew. "Strip down non-essential systems. I want speed. I want precision. I want to cut through their lines like a scalpel." He tapped the console, his eyes like storm clouds. "We hit fast. We board. And we end this." Rodriguez nodded. "Understood." The Defiance pivoted toward the center of the alien formation. Every calculation told them this was suicide. But Morrison wasn't listening to numbers. He was listening to instinct. Battle Commander Caltech stared at the human vessel accelerating toward him. It was alone. No fleet. No support. Just one ship aimed like a bullet. "Suicidal," he muttered. "They cannot mean to. No. They must be bluffing." "All ships," he ordered, "intercept. Maintain formation discipline." But therein lay the problem. Formation discipline. The very pillar of Confederation strength, became a chain. Each ship moved precisely. Too precisely. They couldn't shift quickly without breaking Doctrine. And Defiance exploited that. It didn't move like a warship. It moved like a predator. "Martinez," Morrison called across the fleet channel. Lieutenant Tony Martinez was still coordinating fighter wings from the debris cloud above New Austin. He answered immediately. "Captain. I need noise. Hit their rear guard. Make them look the wrong way." Martinez grinned. "Let's give them something loud." His fighters struck like hornets, harrying the Confederation supply vessels from below and behind. Alien ships began shifting to respond. Just as planned. Rodriguez's voice rang out. "Opening, Sector 6. Go now." The Defiance surged forward, engines screaming, hull groaning from the overload. Energy bolts carved the vacuum around them, but Morrison flew where no commander should. Through the heart of logic itself. Straight into the enemy. The alien flagship loomed ahead, a monolithic wedge of steel and command. "Prepare boarding parties," Morrison barked. "You all know what to do." Marine Captain Steve Johnson was already at the airlocks, weapon in hand, armor sealed. His Marines moved with brutal grace, Earth's final answer to an enemy that had never learned how to bleed. The Defiance slammed into the docking bay like a storm colliding with a cathedral. Its armored prow tore through ceremonial plating and into the alien heart. The Marines flooded in, no speeches, no glory. Just focused rage. Just human war. Sergeant Kelly Adams kicked down the command bridge door. In front of her, Battle Commander Kalthek turned, stunned. He had never seen a human this close. Certainly not with a rifle pointed at his chest. "Surrender," she said. "Your ship is taken." Kalthek looked at his officers, cowering. Hands raised. None knew what to do. Because nothing in Confederation doctrine had prepared them for this. For an enemy who would throw away ships, lives, certainty, for a chance to win. For the chaos that stared into Order's eyes and refused to blink. Across the fleet, confusion spread like contagion. Human Marines had boarded the command vessel. They had breached perfection. And that single act shattered the spell of invincibility that had protected the Confederation for 3 millennia. The order was issued, retreat. Again. A second retreat. Unthinkable. Unsurvivable. Unexplainable. On Earth, Admiral Kate Foster stood in the subterranean command center beneath the Rockies, watching the tide shift in real time. Around her, analysts scrambled, data streamed, and minds raced. President Hayes sat across from her. "Your assessment, Admiral." Foster's gaze was steel. "The aliens are not invincible. Their ships are better. But their minds are limited. They follow rules." Defense Secretary Shaw leaned in. "What's our advantage?" "Chaos," Foster said. "We are a species that improvises. That breaks rules. That sacrifices to win." Just then, Morrison walked in, battle-worn, but alive. He tapped the holographic projector, revealing the alien command vessel's schematics. "They think from the top down," he explained. "Orders pass down a rigid hierarchy. Captains don't improvise. They obey." Colonel Turner added, "We've cracked their tactical code. Every formation is a puzzle. And puzzles can be solved." Major Lewis chimed in, "They adapt, but only in ways their doctrine allows. And we're outside that box." Foster stood slowly. "Then we don't just fight them," she turned to the map. "We teach them fear." But light years away, the Confederation was not sleeping. In the shadowed chambers of her warship, War Marshal Vexithara stared at the tactical projections with something bordering on fury. 2 defeats. 2 humiliations. How? She demanded, her voice rising over the silence. How did primitives destroy a command ship? How did chaos unravel our order? Advisors fidgeted. Theories flew. Some blamed luck. Others suggested primitive AI tools. One even posited human psychic instincts. But Vexithara knew the truth. Or at least, its shadow. "They do not fight the war," she whispered. "They break it. They make war into something else." She turned to her officers. "No more surgical strikes. No more half measures. Ready the entire fleet. Every ship. Every soldier. We end them." And far above Earth, the stars shifted once more. War was coming. Real war. Not ritual. Not doctrine. Not perfection. Chaos was about to meet its greatest challenge, and the galaxy would bear witness. Space does not tremble, but if it could, the arrival of the Confederation's Grand Fleet would have made the stars themselves shiver. 3,700 warships emerged from faster-than-light space on the edges of Sol System, an invasion force unmatched in scale, precision, and power. They came as gods. War Marshal Vexithara stood at the center of this celestial storm, her flagship a leviathan of design and death. Before her stretched the home of the upstart species that had dared to wound her fleet. Earth. A fragile blue orb wrapped in cloud and defiance. Begin final approach, she ordered, each word a vow. Let these humans witness the collapse of their illusion. And the fleet moved. Perfectly. On board the USS Constitution, Admiral Kate Foster watched the alien fleet form up on long-range sensors. There was no uncertainty in their approach. Every ship aligned to Doctrine, every line of fire predetermined. It was terrifying. And beautiful. And utterly vulnerable. All units, Foster said calmly across the fleet-wide channel, remember what we've learned. They are many. They are advanced. But they are not ready for us. They follow patterns. We write new ones. Around her, Earth's battered navy prepared to face the greatest military force in history. 783 ships against 3,700. And not a single one of them intended to run. USS Defiance led Strike Group Alpha. Its hull, once scorched by earlier battles, now gleamed with a fresh coat of armor and resolve. Morrison stood tall, watching the Confederation's approach unfold like a symphony of death. They're forming into intimidation patterns again, Rodriguez observed. Like dancers repeating the same choreography, Morrison muttered. They've conquered hundreds of worlds with it. Let's make Earth the first one to boo the performance. He turned toward his crew. Operation Wildcard is a go. Operation Wildcard was madness turned to method. Instead of cohesion, it demanded creativity. Instead of discipline, it required trust. Every ship captain would make independent decisions based on the battlefield in front of them. There was no master plan, only intent. The Confederation called it suicide. Humans called it intuition. As the alien fleet moved within weapons range, they unleashed the display that had broken 212 species before humanity. Thousands of warships lit the sky in synchronized pulses of power and perfection. It was a terrifying ballet of force projection, designed to make surrender a foregone conclusion. But Earth had seen worse. Earth had survived itself. Foster gave the order. Scatter protocol. Now. The human fleet detonated into disarray. Ships peeled off in every direction. Some darted toward the flanks. Others dropped into planetary gravity wells. A few charged directly into the heart of the enemy. It was not a battle line. It was a storm. On the Confederation bridge, Vexithara's command screen fractured into confusion. Explain, she demanded. Where are their formations? They have no formations, Yakvara replied, stunned. Their vessels are not acting as units. They are moving independently. Randomly. No species is that disordered. They are. Vexithara's hands clenched. Then destroy them. Ship by ship. Erase them. But the human fleet did not allow itself to be erased. Captain Morrison's strike group spiraled through the left flank of the alien formation, ignoring what logic deemed high-value targets. They hit wherever weakness exposed itself. From the USS Intrepid, Ross Miller's voice rang out, I've got a clean shot at their rear supply node. Breaking formation. Permission granted, Morrison replied. Use your judgment. It was the line that undid the Confederation. Human ships did not ask permission. They saw opportunity. And seized it. Commander Janet Cruz aboard the USS Vigilant noticed a pocket in the alien communications array. We're diving into the comm net, she said, already moving. Captain Dan Roberts, helming the USS Relentless, saw a carrier deploying drone wings. Let's ruin their launch party, he growled, firing at close range. Across the battlefield, the unexpected became the standard. Alien ships found themselves assaulted from below, behind, within. It was as if the humans had unlocked a new axis of warfare, one the Confederation hadn't programmed for. Vexithara's fury ignited. Pattern Omega, 7, she shouted. Restore formation. Crush them. But Yakvara, her most loyal commander, shook her head. War Marshal, they aren't fighting by pattern. There is nothing to counter. They're improvising. Continuously. The War Council fell into a stunned silence. Doctrine, which had ruled for millennia, was collapsing in real time. The enemy wasn't playing a different game. The enemy had thrown away the board. Admiral Foster waited for the signal she'd hoped would never be necessary. But it came. The final phase of Operation Wildcard, strike the command vessel. There was no subtlety in it. It was the kind of plan that Confederation logic dismissed as reckless, because it was. But recklessness, guided by purpose, was where humanity thrived. Captain Morrison, Foster said. You know what to do. Defiance burned through the chaos, slicing toward Vexathara's flagship. Alien ships tried to intercept, but their rules required symmetrical counterattack. By the time they formed defensive walls, the Defiance was already past. Martinez's fighter wing provided cover, skimming through the debris clouds like phantoms. He cleared a path with what remained of his squadron, calling out, "We've got your flank, Captain. Go." Defiance dove. It used planetary gravity as a slingshot, spinning under the Confederation's fleet to approach from an impossible vector. Vexathara's tactical officer gasped. They're targeting us directly. Impossible, she snapped. No one would, but humans would. And they did. The impact rattled the flagship. Then came the breach. Sergeant Adams once again led her team through the corridors of a ship that had never known violence this close. The fighting was brutal. Efficient. Personal. At the heart of the bridge, Adams raised her weapon and locked eyes with Vexathara. The alien war marshal didn't raise a weapon. She only asked, softly, why? Why do you fight without plan? Without order? Without discipline? Adams took a breath. Because order gets you killed. We improvise. We adapt. That's what humans do. And in that moment, something broke. Not just a command center. An entire worldview. Across the alien fleet, surrender signals began to broadcast. One by one, ships powered down weapons. Others fled into the dark. The Confederation had not just lost a battle. They had lost certainty. Back on Earth, as relief and mourning mingled, Admiral Foster watched the stars. Around her, crews tended to the wounded, salvaged wrecks, and buried the dead. They had won. But at terrible cost. A voice came through the channel, Captain Morrison. All ships, this is the Defiance. The war is over. We've proven that there's more than one way to fight. He paused. Now let's prove we can make peace, too. Throughout the galaxy, the fall of the Confederation sent ripples through 100 worlds. Species that had endured millennia of submission dared to hope. Freedom wasn't just possible, it was real. Because chaos had done what perfection could not. Because creativity had rewritten the future. Because humanity had arrived.